Nina Adisa opened her eyes to velvet curtains, gold chandeliers, and the soft hum of classical music. She blinked, confused. The last thing she remembered was falling asleep in her small apartment in Lagos, yet here she was, in a bed fit for royalty. Panic surged through her veins as she sat up and noticed the shimmering diamond ring on her finger. Her heartbeat hammered as she scanned the marble floors, the gilded mirrors, and the heavy security guards outside the glass doors. She stumbled out of bed, noticing the glossy wedding certificate on the nightstand. Her breath caught as she read the name beside hers, President Chike Kalu. A cold chill ran down her spine. She had never met him. How could she be married to the most powerful man in the country? The door creaked open, and a tall, imposing man stepped in. His sharp gaze locked onto hers. "Good morning, First Lady," he said smoothly. Nina felt the room spin. Nina staggered backward as the man advanced. His name tag read Commander Jibril, head of the Presidential Security Unit. His face was unreadable, but his voice held an eerie calmness. "Madam, it is time for breakfast. His Excellency is waiting." Her skin prickled. His Excellency? The President? None of this made sense. "I need to speak to him," she said, gripping the wedding certificate. "There's been a mistake." Jibril's lips barely moved. "There is no mistake, madam. You and the President have been married for a year." Her stomach dropped. A year? How? She remembered everything about her life, her tiny Lagos apartment, her struggling business, her best friend Ada, but no memory of a wedding. Minutes later, she was ushered into an extravagant dining hall. At the far end sat President Chike Kalu, tall, composed, and watching her like she was a puzzle he was trying to solve. "You look pale, Nina," he murmured, his deep voice sending shivers through her. She clenched her fists. "Who are you?" she whispered. For a brief second, a flicker of something, shock, recognition, or fear, crossed his face. But then it was gone. Nina sat stiffly as the president sipped his tea like nothing was amiss. "Eat, my dear," he said, setting his cup down. Her palms trembled as she held the spoon. "You're saying we've been married for a year?" His dark gaze met hers. "Yes. But there was something off." His voice was too precise, too rehearsed. His face held a neutral expression, but Nina could sense a deep unease. "What's my favorite color?" she asked suddenly. A flicker of hesitation. "Blue," he answered smoothly. Her breath caught. Wrong. Her favorite color was emerald green. A small, icy realization slithered into her mind. He didn't know her. Which meant he was lying, too. Determined to find proof, Nina searched the presidential suite that night. She rifled through drawers, scanned photographs, checked her phone, nothing. No wedding photos, no memories, no trace of her past life. She grabbed her phone and dialed her best friend, Ada. It rang once before a mechanical voice responded, "This number is no longer in service." She tried her mother's number. Disconnected. Her breath hitched. Her past was disappearing. She turned to the mirror, eyes blazing. "What have they done to me?" The reflection shifted. For half a second, she saw someone else staring back. Nina stumbled back from the mirror, her breath ragged. For a fraction of a second, she had seen a different woman staring back at her. Same eyes, same face, but something was off. Panic clawed at her chest. She wasn't crazy. Something was wrong with her reality. A knock on the door made her flinch. Jibril entered, his face unreadable. "Madam, the president requests your presence in the study." Her heart pounded, but she masked her fear. "I'd like to go outside," she said. Jibril's gaze didn't waver. "That won't be possible, madam." Her stomach clenched. So she was a prisoner here. Nina followed him through the palace hallways, her mind racing. She needed to escape. But as she passed a painting of herself, her blood ran cold. The date underneath it read 2021. It was 2024. She stopped breathing. Who was controlling time? President Chike sat behind his mahogany desk, flipping through files like he wasn't hiding a massive secret. "Why do you keep looking at me like a stranger?" Nina demanded, stepping forward. He sighed and folded his hands. "Because you are." The words knocked the air from her lungs. "What do you mean?" she whispered. He studied her for a long time before saying, "The woman I married isn't the same woman standing before me now." Her fingers curled into fists. "That's because I've never been your wife." Chaik's jaw tightened. He pulled out a photograph and slid it across the desk. It was a wedding photo of them together. But when Nina looked at the image, her face began to shift, warping like a glitching screen. A scream built in her throat. What was happening to her? "Stop asking questions," Chaik murmured. "For your own safety." Determined to prove she wasn't insane, Nina confided in a marker, her personal maid. "Please, tell me the truth," Nina pleaded. "Do you remember my wedding?" A marker hesitated before whispering, "There was never a wedding, madam." The air thickened. "Then why does everyone say otherwise?" The maid swallowed. "Because once you question things in this palace, you disappear." Nina's blood went cold. "Disappear?" A loud bang echoed from the hallway. Guards stormed in, grabbed a marker, and dragged her away. "Wait. Stop." Nina screamed, but they didn't even acknowledge her. Her chest tightened. Had she just sentenced the only person who knew the truth to death? Desperate, Nina managed to steal a phone from one of the palace staff. She called a number she had never dialed before, but her fingers moved instinctively, like muscle memory. The call connected. "Nina," a male voice rasped. "Thank God, you're alive." Her heart stopped. "Who are you?" "It's me, Jide. Your fiancé." Everything around her spun. "I'm married to the president." Jide's voice broke. "No, you're not. You were engaged to me. Then one day, you vanished, and a week later, they announced you as the First Lady." The ground felt like it was swallowing her whole. Who was lying? The president or her own past? That night, Nina sneaked through the silent corridors of the palace, following an odd draft in the wall. She pressed her palm against the cold surface, and to her shock, the wall slid open. Inside was a dark room filled with screens, files, and videos of her. She clicked on a video. Her own voice filled the room. "I consent to the memory transfer," she said in the footage, her eyes lifeless. Nina's stomach lurched. Memory transfer? Before she could process it, a gloved hand clamped over her mouth from behind. She woke up strapped to a chair, blinding lights above her. Dr. Hassan, the president's personal doctor, loomed over her. "You were never supposed to remember," he said softly. She thrashed. "What did you do to me?" He sighed. "We implanted the memories of the president's deceased wife into you. The real First Lady died 2 years ago. But the world cannot know that. So we made you her replacement." Nina's mind shattered. She wasn't the president's wife. She was a government experiment. Nina refused to be a puppet. She had to escape. With careful planning, she managed to outsmart the surveillance and steal access codes. But as she prepared to run, Chaik appeared in the hallway. "Going somewhere?" His voice was dangerously calm. For the first time, she saw it, the guilt in his eyes. "You don't have to do this," she whispered. He clenched his fists. "You don't understand. If the truth comes out, they'll kill us both." Her breath caught. Who was controlling him? The true enemy wasn't the president. It was General Adikun, the shadow ruler pulling the strings. She must never leave the palace alive, the general warned. Chaik's jaw tightened. He had been a pawn all along. A grand banquet gave Nina the perfect distraction. Under the cover of fireworks, she slipped past security, stole a car, and raced towards the city. Sirens roared behind her. They were coming. But as she neared the bridge, her car screeched to a stop. Standing in the middle of the road, gun in hand, was President Chaik. "You can't leave, Nina." Tears blurred her vision. "Then shoot me." Chaik's hands trembled. And then, he turned and shot at the approaching guards instead. "Run," he yelled. With Jide's help, Nina hacked into national television, exposing everything. As the truth aired, General Adikun ordered her assassination. But before he could, Chaik turned against him, sealing both their fates. 1 week later, Nina stood in front of a nation reborn. The government had crumbled, and those responsible for the deception were either dead or arrested. But the man who had saved her was gone. Chike had died in her arms that night, sacrificing himself to give her the freedom to choose her own fate. Now, she had to decide, would she disappear into obscurity, or would she fight for change? She stepped forward, facing the cameras, her voice steady. I am Nina Adisa, and for too long, I was a prisoner of a lie. But today, I take my life back. And I promise, I will never let this country be ruled by shadows again. The crowd erupted in cheers. Jide placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. So, what now? She looked up at the sky, at the stars twinkling above. Chike's fight wasn't over. And neither was hers. Now, we rebuild. And with that, she walked into the future, carrying the truth, and the memory of the man who had died to set her free. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the story. See you in the next one.